Chapter 20, Meeting the Master. Paul was imprisoned for 2 years, as the last chapter said, until one day a very prominent man named Cassius Domitius, a person of great political influence who became blind, came to see Paul, hoping that he would do something great. And he restored this man's vision. Everybody got to know of it, and most importantly, the second wife of Nero, the emperor of Rome. Paul was at Rome, and Poppaea Sabina granted the freedom to Paul. Everybody rejoiced more than he did. This was the beginning of year 63 AD. And then he is planning to finally visit Spain. But then he receives a letter from Peter. Peter doesn't know yet that he's freed. But he's saying, I'm coming there because the persecution here in Jerusalem is too much. I need to be away. Otherwise, we're not going to survive the persecutions. And what does he do? A most touching example for us. He doesn't have much money, but Emmanuel says, Paul does not hesitate for a single moment. He took every measure needed, forewarned his closest friends, and prepared a modest house where Peter could stay with his family. He created the best environment possible to receive his esteemed friend. Teaching for us nowadays. Nowadays people are like, stay at a hotel, don't come to my house, you're gonna bother me and family members. Here we are, the true example of what it is to have love in our hearts. We give the best to the people who are in our lives. And he did it. It's a lesson for us, also for Spiritists. When we're receiving Spiritists at our homes, we should also, irrespective of their stature spiritually speaking, give them the best possible treatment. Not to show off, but to show that we care. And that's also the way we'd like to be treated. A lesson for us. And their encounter is very touching. Overcome with joy, Emmanuel says, Paul of Tarsus held out his arms to his old friend from Jerusalem. Simon had brought his wife and children in addition to John. They exchanged, they were rejoiced, they had plans, and there was so much to do at Rome. But then Tigellinus, the man that was there with the emperor, Nero, was persecuting the Christians with all his force. It was pretty hard. Knowing that John and Peter were there, Paul said, I will go visit Spain. And he did. He did. John was imprisoned. The Christians were treated in the most cruel way, dying in boiling water. And then Paul is asked to come back. This is year 64 AD. Poppaea Sabina again comes and frees John. Wonderful. But what we don't know is that there is great fire burning the city of Rome. Who is in the behind the scene? Nero. I know you may know the story, but if you don't, it's a good opportunity to go read this chapter. What is important for us now is that they are going to blame the Christians for the fire imposed onto Rome. And what is the price they're going to pay? With their own lives. They didn't do it. Nero had this plan. He had the plan to blame the Christians. He imprisoned everybody. But then Emmanuel shares with us, no matter what was happening, Paul and the disciples were traveling, doing the best they could, and the teachings that he was sharing was of selflessness, service, peace of conscience, practice of goodness. These are the highlights of our foundation. Well, the final moments of the chapter. Inevitably, when he meets Nero, Nero is scared and says, this is the most dangerous man I've ever met. We're not going to imprison him. We're going to keep him free, but we'll keep our eyes on him until the day Paul is preaching and is imprisoned. There, his death sentence. He's going to die the day after they are going to sacrifice the Christians at their Circus Maximus. How are they going to do it? They're going to decapitate him. At the very day of decapitation, the man, the executioner, he couldn't do it. He says, I'm sorry, I regret have been appointed to this. And Paul, very serenely, Emmanuel said, go on, don't tremble, just do it. Finish your job. He did, decapitated Paul after he gave 20 steps. And at these last pages, the most beautiful description of what happened in our mortality. Little by little, after feeling the last anguishes, he began to feel a soft sensation of reparative relief. He feels loving and friendly hands touching him lightly, and he's still feeling weak, and he perceives the presence of someone. He says, who are you? He feels he's blind again. Ananias. Ananias comes in the afterlife and receives Paul in the name of Christ. And joined by Ananias is Gamaliel, his former mentor. And then they grant him a wish. In his consciousness, he says, I can't see the ones whom I love very much, but I want to go back to the city where I brought so much turmoil, Jerusalem. And Emmanuel describes, they fly, go there. And everywhere he goes, he sees the emissions of gratitude, reminiscing every little detail, receiving the blows of gratitude from so many souls. He's finally granted with the presence of the brother and sister of Corinth. He sees this most beautiful picture. A luminous pathway appeared in the vastness of space, and 3 radiant figures approached. The Master. On the right side, there was Stephen and Abigail on the left, astonished, enraptured. The apostle couldn't only reach out his arms, for his voice deserted him at the peak of his emotion, abundant tears. All he wanted to do, Emmanuel says, was to embrace the loved ones. But Paul wanted to throw himself in the arms of them. But like a child who owed everything to the dedicated master, he saw Jesus' eyes for approval. And Jesus smiled, indulgent, and said, yes, Paul, rejoice. Come now to my arms, for it is the will of my Father that persecutors and martyrs alike be united forever in my kingdom. This is our destiny, to be together with everyone in our lives, reconciling, loving, serving always. Our most gratitude to all these spirits and to Chico Xavier and Emmanuel for this work.